Hey guys, as you can tell from the title of this video, this is my Mythic Kil'Jaeden kill, and it's actually our fourth kill of Kil'Jaeden. Some things went wrong with the recording from the first and second, and I ended up not recording the third. So we have to deal with the fourth kill that we have. It's a good pull, good numbers, and everything was mechanically sound. So hopefully you can get some of that in the background while I'll be sitting here yapping at you. I'm going to take this video as an opportunity to go through each of the fights in Tomb and give my thoughts and opinions on them, their perspective from a Holy Paladin. Just kind of summarize the instance since we are 2 days into Antorus now, and several guilds have actually already full cleared Heroic Antorus, and looking forward to Mythic. So without any further ado, I'll start off with Goroth. So Goroth was a fun fight. It kind of set the whole tone for the instance, though, in the very punishing one-shot mechanic in Reign of Brimstone, where if you didn't get in one of these 4 soaks, Tomb of Soak Garrus, you were basically guaranteed wipe, unless you were very close to already killing the boss, in which case you could outrage the taking damage from them. The Shattering Star mechanic was always good and led to a big burst healing that we could do, especially with Aura of Sacrifice. Then the biggest disappointment, though, besides Reign of Brimstone being a one-shot mechanic, was the Shattered Spires with Crashing Comet. It ended up being completely unnecessary to do that mechanic if you really wanted to. My guild never ended up crashing any comments into the spires, so if we did have quite a bit up, we would just SLT and heal through the damage, which was negligible. But in general, I had a good time on the fight. 2 healing it, 3 healing it at the end of the tier was always a good time, and it was a good first boss. Just unfortunately has the problem of Tomb, really, is that it has the must soak or die mechanic. So after Goroth, a lot of guilds went over to Harjatan, which was another pretty fun fight. Pretty simple fight, as the first bosses are, as usual. I personally enjoyed this fight a lot. I found the Unchecked Rage to be a good amount of damage and would definitely require spot healing on people if they were low, and maybe an external like Blessing of Sacrifice or something to keep people up. I personally enjoyed the fight a lot because I got to basically carry the healing through the second draw-in. Innervate plus Aura of Sacrifice and just push all the healing out in that phase was an enjoyable experience. Just seeing all the green numbers as usual with Aura of Sacrifice, right? But in general, the fight was pretty simple. I think we 5-shot it or something like that. It was pretty easy. And then after that, everybody went over to Demonic Inquisition, and Demonic Inquisition was, again, pretty simple fight. I think it took 9 pulls for us to get it down. A lot of guilds were even less than that. But in general, for Holy Paladin, and this is kind of the first of many instances where we didn't really have anything to do as Holy Paladins. We weren't targeted by the torment giving circles on the ground. I don't know the name. So we could safely stand in the melee pack and then, do our thing. But it just kind of led to us not really having torment be a thing. I think the entire tier, I went down 1 time when I was healing, because you don't get torment as a Holy Paladin unless you're just blatantly dispelling echoes of anguish immediately and giving yourself all the torment in the world. But in general, Holy Paladin didn't really have anything to do. I enjoyed the fight a lot more on PTR, actually, because on PTR, Tormented Burst was more damage. It was a big burst that required a healing cooldown a lot of the times, and then the Fell Squall or the Bone Storm that Atragan did were less damage. And then right before they launched, they switched it where Tormenting Burst did like 250k or something that's kind of laughable. And then the Bone Storms and Echo Fell Squall were bumped up for some reason. So I don't really know why they did that. Made the fight a hell of a lot easier because it happens a lot less, but in general, it just kind of made for Paladins, between not having to do the whole one mechanic, and then none of our auras were really all that effective, especially Aura of Sacrifice, which I love running, because there wasn't any big burst damages anymore. I guess Dev Aura would be pretty good, and Aura Mercy would be fine, but in general, it was kind of a meh fight. All right, and then so after DI, everybody went over to Sisters, which was the first melee meme test of the instance, with Astral Vulnerability stacks frequently skyrocketing past 10 in a lot of guilds. It wasn't always the melee's fault, but it was a lot of the time. It was pretty funny to watch sometimes. The ults were fun. I thought they were pretty cool additions to the fight. Having the overlaps were pretty interesting. Incorp Shot was very simple, but when paired with Flave Storm or the healing shields, could lead to very interesting interactions where you'd have to make sure that that guy is topped up because Incorp Shot's coming, but he has the shield on him, so it's like a lot more precarious position for him to be in. The biggest beef on the fight for Holy Paladins, though, is Aura of Sacrifice interactions with the shields. For some reason, healing a shield off doesn't count as effective shielding, and I don't actually know if they ever ended up fixing that the entire time. It took them a lot of time to even acknowledge that there was a problem, and throughout the entire tier, whenever I was running Aura of Sacrifice on it, the only workaround that there was to, as soon as the shield popped, lay on hand somebody and then just overheal the shit out of them, and then hope that your transfer was enough to get the shields off everybody, which it frequently was. But the fact that you had to use a 10-minute cooldown just to get around a coding issue, or maybe it's just the fact that it's not in Blizzard's eye effective healing to heal off of healing absorb. But either way, it was really frustrating, and led to a lot of Devorah usage, which is fine. Devorah is a great spell. Yeah, it was a fun fight, and then after that, everybody went over to Host. Host was a pretty simple fight. I hated it with a passion the first couple of kills. I thought it was horrible. This boss, I didn't know what was going on, and people are dying, and I don't even know what. People are getting knocked off from the spear because they don't know it knocks you backwards, and just total shit show, right? The only time anybody ever really took damage was when melee would just clump up on each other, and you'd get the 5-yard range where they splash damage on each other, which was great. Sometimes I got some decent parses because our melee DPS just decided to stack on each other for half the fight. A lot of times there wasn't enough damage going out, so we would end up solo healing it. So when that would happen, you'd see some pretty good numbers from the Corp realm. But again, this fight, it was all about Devorah. Devorah was king on this fight. I mean, if you want to parse, go ahead and run Sacrifice. But Devorah did so much work. I'm really looking forward to some of the fights in Antorus that have similar room sizes and also mechanics, and that just Devorah just reduces so much damage, and it's just a pity you can't convince people to take it more often. So 5 bosses in, everything's going great, and then everybody gets the Mistress, and everybody hits the wall. Especially after they got rid of the Blood Decay cheese. Personally, I loved Mistress. I thought it was great. Just the Hydra Shot damage, the constant damage, dropping stuff, dropping Consuming Hunger with the puddle right before Hydra Shot, topping people off, and I thought it was great. From Paladin perspective, it was really cool to be like the cool kid in the school where you had the bop and DPS would be like, hey, can I get a bop because I don't want to deal with this Consuming Hunger. Or like in Pit Phase 3 when you're sub 25 and you bop the warrior so that he can keep his fish and just not take any damage and just go nuts. It made you feel really important and useful and raid utility, am I right? The aura choice was really good too. All of them had a place. Aura Sacrifice I ran because I loved, there was this particular one of the Hydra shots came right during the Feed the Whale part, so you had to just, so much damage was coming out and you were doing like no overhealing with Aura of Sacrifice, so it was really cool. But Devorah was great too. Just the constant Consuming Hunger damage in Phase 3 getting reduced just from you being there is really strong. But in general, this fight was amazing, except maybe a little poorly designed in that every time you got more gear, the fight became harder, and every time they nerfed the boss's health, it became harder. Please don't do any more percent-based one-shot mechanics, because that's rough. So after Mistress, everybody went to Maiden. Speaking of one-shot mechanics, Maiden was, in my opinion, horribly designed fight. It was great as a paladin. Again, one of the perks of having bubble, if you ever got chosen, or if you ever did, in fact, maybe soak the wrong orb, or not get out of the way fast enough, you can just divine shield it off. So sucks to all the other healers, I guess. And the fact that wings would be up for every single bulwark was great. Just you could pump out so much healing during that section. Light's Hammer was also really strong here with the constant ticking damage. In general, I do not hate Maiden. We have a working relationship, we'll call it. So after Maiden came Avatar, which for me was the best fight in the instance. I loved Avatar. I thought the mechanics were unique, and it's not just the fact that Paladin was amazing. at this fight. Devora especially crushed this fight on progression. Just the reduced damage taken, while also everybody had the healing debuff on them. Is kind of the dream for Devora, just making everybody take less damage. The insane amount of tank damage that was happening led to very little beacon overhealing, which is also kind of the paladin dream. Our mitigation as a class too was great. Our 1 minute cooldown for a 20% reduced damage kind of made Black Winds and just all the reduced healing done in phase one laughable in a way. And then again, bubble during phase two if you ever are getting in trouble, or if you get knocked into the lava by a dark mark or something, or you can even help solo dark marks. Just kind of this fight in general for paladins was amazing, and I have no complaints at all, and not much to say about it, honestly. It was a hard fight, but felt great to kill it. Now that Avatar is dead, it's on to the last boss of the instance, Kil'Jaeden. And I love this fight. I know that might be nails on a chalkboard to a lot of people, but I think this fight is amazing. Armageddon soaks were a bit much, but in general, it felt like the last boss of an instance. I feel like a lot of the joy I have about this fight comes from being a paladin. I think Blizzard pulled a bunch of paladins and asked them what they wanted in a fight, and then designed that fight as the final raid boss in a tier, because we could not ask for more as paladins. It's basically a paladin wet dream. This fight is. There's extremely heavy tank damage. There's a great use for Aura of Sacrifice and the healing adds, and you get to showcase your immunities very strongly in phase three by soaking orbs if your guild needs you to. In general, this fight was just incredible for paladins. And in general, I have not too many complaints about Kil'Jaeden. The Armageddon soaks were a bit much. I wish there was a way to recover from it, but in general, this fight was good. Not great, just good. But as a paladin, I thought it was fucking incredible. And hopefully there's fights like that coming up in Antorus. And so yeah, that's all the fights in Tues Sargeras, tier 20. Put it behind us. A lot of complaints. It was a very, very difficult tier. A lot of people really didn't like this tier, caused a lot of burnout, and a lot of guilds died. But yeah, let me know if you agree, disagree, what you think. Do the old like, comment, subscribe thing. Channel's growing slowly. Plan on releasing a lot more videos in Antorus rather than just kill videos of heroic and mythic kills. But let me know what you'd like to see in the future. If there's anything you'd want to see, can maybe accommodate that. But yeah, I'll see you guys in Antorus.